Good morning. I'd like to start by thanking the sponsors of the conference, the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine. We have been a sponsor at CTI since inception of ARM more than a dozen years ago, and believe it is the leading organization around cell and gene therapies. Briefly today, I'd like to highlight to you the history and the service offerings and the global reach of CTI. We are a 25-year-old clinical research organization, one of the largest in the world. We have a full service of research services that I will share with you this morning, and would like to highlight the experience in cell and gene therapy especially. The company works on behalf of more than 300 pharma, biotech, medical device companies, has been part of more than 200 successful approvals, FDA, EMA, PMDA, Health Canada, et cetera, around the globe. Of great importance, I think, for this conference is the fact that more than half of all the cell and gene therapy products that have received approval over the past several years, we have been a partner with those firms that have been doing this particular work. I think one of the keys to our success is retention. CTI has industry-leading retention over the last 10 years or so, and just to give you one highlight, in the first quarter of this year, more than 97.5% annualized retention. And this is particularly important for you from the perspective of having continuity in your project team when we work together over several years. CTI's global presence allows us to take a first-in-man program anywhere in the world, expand that into ultimate larger registration trials. You get a sense of the footprint here. We have a presence with CTI associates in approximately 70 countries across 6 continents, and feel that we can support any cell or gene therapy program anywhere in the world. From a therapeutic perspective, we have a particular emphasis around rare disease, but other areas of particular emphasis for us include nephrology, hepatology, immunology, oncology, and really heavy emphasis in pediatrics. About a third of all the programs that CTI is involved with involve children. Many of them involve neonates, where we are treating them within the first days or weeks after being born in an attempt to either treat, prevent, or cure diseases with cell and gene approaches. The company has been acknowledged and awarded over the quarter century that we've been in business with a number of different awards, including acknowledgments in the CGT space. This just shows you a list of recent acknowledgments that the organization has received over the last 12 months or so. To give you a brief view of the CTI service offerings, as mentioned, a company can come to us from the earliest stages. We do a lot of tech transfer for companies that have academic origins and move into the for-profit world. We're able to, whether it be on the regulatory side, on the laboratory side, or on the CRO side, be able to take a product from inception all the way through to approval. Would like to highlight that we are, we believe, the most experienced clinical research organization in the cell and gene world, and we'll particularly highlight the breadth of services. We have our own research site where we can contribute either wholly to studies or partially to studies. We also have laboratory services with 2 labs that have been constructed from inception, one supporting North America and Latin America, the other supporting Europe and MEA. Also have a group that focuses around real-world evidence, including pricing and reimbursement work. So really it is a one-stop shop. Particular emphasis around our global regulatory support for CGT programs. From the earliest time, the organization has supported meetings such as Interact meetings, pre-IND meetings, pre-IDE meetings, all the way into the clinic and throughout. This same experienced team is also the one that is preparing the dossiers for end of phase 1, end of phase 2, or end of phase 3 submissions, as well as doing supplemental BLAs and NDAs that support all drug approvals, but especially on the CGT side. One of the things that I did want to highlight specifically is the issue of life cycle management. What we're seeing now with some of the earliest programs that CTI has supported with companies like Bluebird Bio, Spark Therapeutics, Kite et cetera, is the ability to expand indications, utilizing the original dossier and expanding upon that. One of the things that we pride ourselves on, is all activities are treated as though they have a potential regulatory impact, and as such, the data quality is able to support applications around the globe. A group that I wanted to specifically highlight is our Model-Informed Drug Development Group. This is a very unique group. For any of you who have struggled with initial phase 1 studies and trying to convince the regulatory authorities of the appropriate dose, this particular group uses a model-informed approach to highlight first-in-man dosing, as well as to shorten as much as possible the number of cohorts needed when doing early studies and being able to quickly move from phase 1 into pivotal trials. You'll look to FDA and EMA websites, and you'll see a particular importance around model-informed drug development from the agency's perspective to support early stage studies. This group has a long history, more than 15 years in small molecules, and more recently is working almost on a weekly basis with large molecules, including antibodies, drug conjugates, cell products, and gene edited products. So it's a very unique service offering, and one that we find as soon as we have an engaging first conversation, virtually all sponsors are particularly interested in engaging and trying to understand dose justification, dose selection, and also supporting any PK or PD work that's necessary to support the design for clinical trials. This is particularly helpful, I think, in small patient populations, in pediatrics, and in products in rare diseases. As I mentioned earlier, 2 large global laboratory facilities. These groups do work all the way from providing supplies. Any of you who have been in the clinical trial area over the last 4 or 5 years will probably be able to testify to the shortage of drug products, to supplies, to kits, something as simple as blood collection tubes. We're able to provide any of those materials in whatever volume or whatever location. Just recently we were supporting studies in Ukraine, able to ship products into Ukraine in less than 72 hours and able to determine accurate delivery. In addition to that, biorepository capabilities for samples, tissue samples, plasma samples, blood samples, or anything else. These have been stored historically for well over a decade. They're stored on site, so easy access for repeat testing whenever necessary. We also have capabilities for peripheral blood mononuclear cell processing and testing, again, this is done on site at our locations to support any early stage studies. The laboratories are accredited by the highest bodies, the College of American Pathologists, CLIA, and similar organizations here throughout Europe. To give you a sense, this just is a cartoon slide showing clinical trial lab workflow specific for anything relative to cell or gene clinical programs. And the things I'd like to highlight here is these laboratories support the safety testing that are used for screening subjects to get into studies. They also have bioanalytical capabilities to develop, validate, or do tech transfer for any assays you might already have available or ones that you'll consider adding to any existing or new clinical trials. To give you a sense, pardon me, as mentioned, we currently work with more than 300 pharma, biotech, medical device sponsors. This just shows you that about 2/3 of all the work done by CTI are small to mid-sized companies. We specialize in companies where we have to be quite nimble, where companies have deadlines that have incredible importance to the company's fundraising and even survivability, and yet at the same time we can pivot and work quite frequently on a daily basis with large pharma. We also do a lot of work globally with other CROs that don't have capabilities like CTI. We work with academic medical centers many times for investigator-initiated trials, or in the case of due diligence or market access, where they're actually looking to move products that were developed in the academic setting into a for-profit. To give you a sense, just a little over half of all of CTI's clients are North American based. The other half are based with a predominance in Europe as well as in Asia. We feel like we are the most experienced clinical research organization in the world around CGT treatments. As mentioned, we go back to more than a dozen years of CGT work, and actually prior to that, a lot of work in the hematopoietic stem cell area. So the company's history really has been born on this. I think one of the remarkable features is any particular sponsor who hires CTI, 90+% of them will come back to us with repeat opportunities, keeping in mind that many of the companies are acquired or sometimes actually go out of business. So essentially everyone that stays in business comes back to us and awards us repeat business. We feel like it's a combination of clinical operations excellence coupled with a very experienced medical affairs and regulatory affairs team that will work on the behalf of the sponsors. Just to give you a sense of the current landscape for CTI is we manage more than 100 cell and gene therapy programs right now from more than 50 sponsors. If you look at the breadth of these, there are thousands of active patients and they are across dozens and dozens of countries and obviously hundreds of research sites. And as such, it provides a really broad experience that anyone who is new to the area or looking for new partners to be able to take the advantage of all the work that we have done over the last 25 years and synthesize that into something that you can do. This particular slide just highlights the cell sources that we've worked with, the vectors that we've worked with, and the route of administration. And I'd say if anything of late over the last 5 years or so, the route of administration has become particularly important. Most of our cell and gene work prior to 5 years ago was IV administration, usually in a single dose. As you can see here now, the route of administration and the location of administration has varied tremendously, especially in the context of trying to work, for instance, in the solid tumor space. To give you a sense, about half of all of our programs are cell and about half are gene vector-based. Of those, about half are autologous and about a little less than half allogeneic. I want to highlight that if you look at it, a preponderance of programs are first in man. Many are combined phase 1-2, or in the pivotal setting, a combined phase 2-3 study. And I highlight that only as you're developing your regulatory strategy to be able to talk with us about how do you compact your clinical development program and potentially do 2 studies in one as opposed to doing a more traditional approach of phase 1 followed by phase 2 followed by phase 3. This slide just highlights recent cell and gene therapy approvals from last year, and you can see approvals from FDA, EMA, MHRA in the UK, Health Canada, as well as the PMDA in Japan. Overall, 13 different products that were approved in 2023. The CTI team partnered with the pharma or biotech company to move the product to approval. My last slides or two, I just want to highlight, we feel like we have a very unique model from a CTI perspective in that there are people that are really, really good at one particular service offering or one particular geographic location, or they may have a particular expertise around either cell therapy or gene therapy. We feel like our model is one that crosses across all planes. We continue to add service offerings. We continue to also add geographic reach. For instance, I was at a conference like this just about 3 weeks ago in the Middle East where we were treating some of the first patients in the world that particular week with gene therapy products that had been approved. And just to give you a sense, we had a 28-day submission to approval perspective in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for a gene therapy study for a hematological disorder, sickle cell disease, and able to treat a patient in just over 1 month from the time of the regulatory submission. So I'd like to encourage you to think beyond maybe some of the traditional places that we typically do our research to think it could be anywhere in the world. I'll leave you with, as mentioned, more than a dozen years of experience on behalf of close to 100 pharma and biotech companies. More than half of all the cell and gene products that have been approved, our team has worked on, a footprint that can support products anywhere in the world, and finally, a global set of service offerings that we continue to add to support clinical trials, including everything from clinical research to site services, to also our laboratory services, pricing, reimbursement, and regulatory. So I'll end there, and thank you very much for your attention.